Today we have a new headline, and it says Tory grassroots, that's the people, vote against putting line saying, quote, climate change is real, into policy. I presume it's some sort of policy to do with the environment, and I presume that a bunch of rabble who have absolutely no idea about climate science because mainly they're interested in what their politician looks like and if he says nice things. I don't think these people have a clue. And, there are times in history when you have to say, well, we're going to have to lean on the experts. Like, for example, right now, here I sit in my basement. There you are in yours watching it. And what are we waiting for? Somebody who's been working on vaccines to invent one so that we can be vaccinated, so we can get back together and not kill each other by infecting each other. Because it's not 1917 and we don't need to spread the Spanish flu or the 21st century equivalent of it, which is COVID-19, and kill off a bunch of people between 70 and 90. Just because we're idiots. We don't need to do that. But we do need to trust somebody who understands ribonucleic acid at a place like, what's it called? Pfizer. Anyway, that's what we're doing. But once in a while you get these Looney Tunes who come together and they say, oh, well, climate change is a lie. Okay. Well, there's still two other ways to know or not. The first one is common sense, and the second one is actual research. Now, I am lucky. I know somebody who spent most of his life so far involved with people smart enough to give him a really clear inside track. He worked for a prestigious university without ever having taught a class because he's just a guy who likes to sit around and think, and they paid him for that. And he was around other people who fit the exact same mold, and some of them do climate science. Yes. So, about 5 years ago, I asked him if it was real, and he said, yes, of course it's real. Oh. Well, I had to ask, right? That is what he's about. And he explained, therefore, that what was going on was an increased amount of evaporation from the oceans by a small change, a 1 degree change centigrade, that's about 2 degrees Fahrenheit, worldwide, which brought more water vapor into the atmosphere. More water vapor was causing more extreme events, and we would see what happened. But those events, well, they could be pretty extreme, and we'd see. Like, for example, there was a 5-year drought in California for the first time in a long time, although droughts have been known to happen in California for 200 years. It's not a first. Okay, so what about Texas in -6 degrees? Well, it hasn't happened in so long, and the entire Texas grid began to collapse during it, so that's something that speaks to change. Or one of the largest tornadoes in record took place near where I live in a place called Verdun, a little ways south of it, about 6 or 10 miles. And it was not just powerful, but it was gigantic. It was about a mile across, and it ran for several hours. Typically, if you go down into Tornado Alley in the USA, you'll hear about powerful tornadoes, and they do rip a hole right through the middle of things. But they don't last very long. They come down, they rip apart, they're narrow, typically, not miles wide, a few hundred yards, and then they stop and die. They lose all their energy. Or maybe you're talking about, hurricane season. If you're in the deep south, you'll know all about that in the south of the USA. My point is that I don't think you can spend your effort trusting politicians, especially people who are trying to get a bunch of their followers. And that's what political grassroots people are. They are followers. They are sheep. Getting them to do the thing they want. Now, sheep are a problem. I don't know if you have any experience with them. I don't. At least I didn't have until I went to a rodeo. What they do is they take kids and they put them on the back of a sheep. And they sort of have a guy who's a clown, right just outside the chute. The kids are usually between 2 and 3 years old, maybe younger. They put a helmet on them too, by the way. Well, they sit on the sheep, and the sheep goes bah, or whatever it does. And then they open the chute, and as the kid comes out, inevitably he's about to hit the ground, and this clown grabs him off and sits him down. And they do this 6 or 7 times. Well, every kid gets his go, and that's all very nice, but it's the sheep that are really interesting. I watched. 1 sheep, 2 sheep, a bunch of sheep came out, and finally, about the 7th or 8th sheep that came out, it didn't see the little flock that was standing about 50 yards away, and it turned and ran like hell as far away from the chute that it had come out of as it could get, and it stood with its bum to the other sheep, bleating furiously because it was lonely and scared. And what happened? All the other sheep, the whole flock, one by one, in perfectly straight line, trotted all the way across the entire rodeo ground to join it, so that it wouldn't be so traumatized. And that's what happens when a sheep falls in a hole. If it's a really deep hole, the entire flock will die. That's why, when you read the old biblical parable about the lost sheep, it mattered so damn much. Because if one sheep was in the hole, it would bleat, and the rest of the flock would follow it down the hole and die. So you've got to look after the one. Now, looking after the one and having sheep, the important thing is to know that people are sheep. So you get the one person, we'll call him Aaron the Tool, and he says, I don't think climate change is real. And everybody else says, yes, climate change is not real, and we'll vote it into policy. Oh, crapola. So I have a friend, and my friend says it is. He's worked in one of the smartest places with the smartest people in the world. I think he should know. I don't think Aaron the Tool has any clue, nor do I think the Conservative Party of Canada has the faintest idea. But I know they want to burn more dead dinosaurs. Yep, gasoline, and natural gas, and other forms of oil. You know something? We're not going to do away with oil, but we don't need to be burning it all the time. There are all sorts of things we can do. Here's one of the things, though, that was said by a guy. Now, Elon Musk admittedly owns Tesla, which is an electric car company, so it sort of colors what he's about to say, but you also think the thing through, and he's right. Sooner or later, we're going to run out of dead dinosaurs, and then, when we run out, we're going to have to find another way to get around with a new form of energy, and it has to be renewable, because there won't be any other sort left. So betting on oil as the means of propulsion for the long term is one of the dumbest bets in history. So you think of that. I mean, there's a fixed amount of coal in the ground and a fixed amount of oil and a fixed amount of natural gas. And when we use it up, it's gone. It'll take millions of years more to build some more up, if it ever happens during human life. So, yeah, he's right. We got to change. I'm sure England probably went through something like this when it had to give up on steam engines and coal, because the USA was plowing them under with use of oil. And now here along comes this guy, Elon Musk, who's got his electric car called a Tesla, but he's not the only one. Toyota's got its Prius, and she's a pretty nice car. It's a hybrid, and it uses a whole lot less oil. And all the oil companies are feeling the pinch, and it's going to get worse. So, if you don't know a brilliant climate scientist who can give you the unequivocal answer like the one I know, think about Elon Musk and his bet. And if you think you belong to a political party that's telling you to not believe the brilliant guy or the guy who's really good at betting, maybe, just maybe, it's time you changed. Because, let's face it, the political party called Conservative is only interested in a small number of people and giving them some more money. They couldn't care less about you. There shouldn't even be any grassroots at a meeting of the Conservative Party. I'm Patrick Stewart. I never vote Conservative, and you shouldn't either.